Yes, it is true. The Black Ice Hockey Podcast is back in action. My name is Blaine Adams. I'm right here as always with your co-host Nick Jags Jenkins. What's going on, man?
It's a beautiful day. I'm being really sarcastic. It is super shitty out. Um,
I
I'm
think it's pouring by me. What about you?
it it was sunny in the middle of the day today. It was pretty nice
Mhm.
actually, but now it's like it's getting dark early, right? It looks like the type of weather where you're like it's gonna snow any day now, and then I'm
Right.
gonna be miserable for the next 6 months. So,
Right. Catch me under a blanket, eating Cheez-Its, watching TV. That's it.
yep, love it.
With an electric heater blasting on my toes. That's it.
Oh man, I understand why old people move to Florida now. That's all I'll say.
That and golf, minus the Gators. If they
Oh,
didn't have
that
any
too.
Gators, it'd be beautiful. But and the
I don't know the
Hurricanes, I guess,
Gators.
like every now and again.
Yeah, I guess the Hurricanes suck, but
But that's why they invented sandbags, right? You just sandbag your house and you're good to go.
yeah, I think that's how it works.
Anyways, light day in hockey news. So today we're just gonna keep it light, trying to talk more hockey talk in general. So if that's something you want to hear and listen to, I think we have some good topics just to talk about hockey in general and how it's moving forward. So, uh, but we will give a rundown of some of the news recently throughout the hockey league right now, and I think we obviously have to start off with the hottest news around the league and Ovi's knee. Has his
Yeah,
knee finally gave out after taking 9 gajillion slap shots above the point, or what?
dude. I mean, this guy. If you look back over the history of his career, he has barely missed any games.
Yeah,
I mean, he stays pretty darn healthy,
well, he's a
and
bulldog. That's why.
well, he's on the Russian gas
Yeah.
as the other podcast, the other famous podcast would like to call it. He's just I don't know. He's a machine, and I went back and watched the clip again. He did come back out, put some weight on his leg, so probably the fear that it could have been his the end of the season for him, or maybe even the
Right.
end of his career. We probably avoided that, which is good, but um, knee injuries are troubling because they're going to come back and bug you, and hopefully he's only going to miss a couple of weeks here, and then he'll be right back because man, he was on pace to beat that record this year, and it would be a
Yeah.
shame if he missed that due to injury at this point.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because he just recorded his first hat trick since 2022 this
Yeah,
this past week. So, the guy was moving towards a record that people like truly just never thought was even feasible.
right.
And then it started being realized like early couple last year, like maybe a couple years ago, that he could possibly do this. Um,
Yeah,
I have a thing about knee injuries. Back in I think it was sixth grade. I was playing basketball. Obviously, I'm on the top team, just wheeling, dealing down there in the paint, and go to jump up for a ball. I land. My brain is thinking faster than my body, and I go to twist out of the paint, mess up my knee. I'm
yeah.
cooked. I can't even walk, can't jump, can't move. So those things are kind of weird because like I don't even know what's in there. There's all the CLs, and there's A through Z in your CLs, and then your knee, your shin, your kneecap, all the junk that's in there. So I mean, I had a leg brace up for I don't know. It felt like forever, and I still like every now and again my like knee will pop out, and then I'll just like have to snap it back in, and it's it's kind of weird, but yeah, it's just one of those things you got to be careful with.
Knees and shoulders are those lingering injuries that they just never seem to be back at 100% once you
Yeah,
have it. So
and
yeah, we'll see, man.
it's cool to think about though, like how far some of this medical stuff and medical rehabilitation has come
Mm-hmm.
though, because you put this guy or put this injury back in like 1970s or even 60s,
Yep.
they'd be like, dude, just walk it off, just skate it off, and then that guy's messed up for the rest of his life. Probably can't even complete the rest of the season. He's done. And but now, as we're seeing with Austin Matthews, he's going to Germany to see a specialist on a undisclosed upper body, I think, or I think it's lower body injury, kind of the same deal. Um, so, what is your take on just like how far some of this medical things, medical injuries, have gone from just like the beginning of our known like existence to in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we've clearly seen medicine get better, right? I think about the Eichel injury a lot
Yeah.
when his relationship basically ended with Buffalo because he was like, no, I want to do this new surgery because it's supposed to get me back to 100%, where the other one um, was basically like, yeah, we'll get you at like 95%. He's like, I want to
Right.
do this because then I'll be back to normal. And Buffalo was nervous because they said it's too new. But again, the advances in technology, breakthroughs in medical research and that type of stuff, we're seeing people come back from, if you look back, say 50 years ago, maybe it was a career-ending injury, and then 10 years ago it may be like a season-ending injury, and now it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, you just got to sit out like a month or two and you'll be fine.
Right.
So I think it's great for obviously the players, that we've got this new technology, and I think you just got to trust the advice that the doctor's given you. And it's interesting that the Matthews thing with him going to Germany for treatment. It's the same thing that I think that's where Christian McCaffrey went.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know we're crossing sports now, but he had went to Germany for treatment earlier in this NFL season as well. Um, so it's on a global scale too. So any advance in medicine that keeps the players healthy, and it's just good for beyond the player, the individual's health is a
Yeah.
good thing for everybody.
It makes you think like why. I know there's so much advancements in just player safety, as far as like trying to get out the helmets or trying to figure out shoulder
Yeah.
pads, elbow pads, shin guards, skates, sticks, things like that. But why? I think we have to revisit some things that happen on the ice and be like, hey, like our star athletes are getting pummeled. Like, yes, it's a sport, but at the end of the day, I think everybody can has to understand like it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And having Matthews not in the lineup, having McDavid, having Crosby, Ovi, Celebrini, Zegras, these people that put asses in seats as what I like to say, you know, to have them out of the game and then only fine or suspend players like $5,000 is the maximum amount the NHLPA allows, and then only suspend these guys like 3 games. Where Matthews, Ovi, like Crosby, you look at back in the Winter Classic, Ovi hits him in the head, didn't even get suspended. Crosby's out for half a season. So
Right.
like things like this, like I think as a league we have to say like, okay, to deter these people, I know most of the time owners will pay these fines, but make it like if the owner is gonna pay for it, you hit him with like 100 grand, or hit him with like two, three, 400 grand, or something crazy to be like, hey guys, like we ain't doing this. Like it has to hurt somewhere, and I think I want you to talk about it. Is this Reeves nurse situation that just happened this past week? Pretty devastating hit, and quite honestly, like something that shouldn't happen in today's game anymore. I don't care how if you hate the guy or not. It's just something like I think as players you need to have more respect for each other on the ice.
Yeah, and you got to be in control of your body. I mean, you could argue that Reeves just went in there and went hard to make a play, but he's got to be aware. Like Reeves is a big boy and he can do
Yeah.
some damage, and clearly he went shoulder to head, and Darnell Nurse went down and he struggled to get back up, and he was all bloodied up. I mean, it was not a good scene.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this gets more visibility because of Reeves. It's Reeves, right? It's not some no name player or first
Right.
time offender. This is Ryan Reeves making that hit. So, you could argue maybe he was just going in there hard to make a play and it was a bad result. I don't really buy it, given his history, and that's kind of the type of player he is anymore. I mean, he's been known his whole career for fighting. He's probably coached to go out there and just make a huge hit and get
Yeah.
momentum going for his
Stir some
team.
up.
Yeah, stir something up. And there's, I don't know, there's just no place in the game for that anymore. Especially when you see somebody like Nurse go down the way he did, you worry about it. It doesn't become, oh, that's a bad hit. It's like, oh, well, now we're worried about Nurse's health.
Yeah.
Like a bad hit like that could really scramble your brain, and it could be worse than just a couple day concussion or something.
Yeah. I
Um,
I think that's where I come in is like I as like a ref and like when I see kids hurt, like I know like the protocol is like if kids are uh or if the team's like has a scoring opportunity, like
yeah,
wait to blow the whistle. Cause like yeah, some people like want to buy a call, but
mhm,
or just want to stop the play. But at the end of the day, like the kid's hurt. It's just a game. Like
yep,
it it's for fun at the end of the day. And to kind of get enraged over like something like that and like I just don't see how you can possibly like function as a human
yep,
like with that sort of mentality. So like stuff like this when it happens in the NHL so frequently, I always like think like, all right, well that's just a green light for it to trickle down. And maybe the NHL doesn't see it, but USA Hockey definitely sees it
yeah,
because you go down in 16, 14, 12U levels, people are just running around trying to like murder people because they don't get suspended. They get what, 2 and 10s, 5 in games. Like, okay, but at the end of the day, it's like when do we draw the line and say, hey, like, yes, it's a contact sport. If you don't like it, don't watch it. I get it. I get the argument. I was a bruiser too. But I also have respect for the guy that I'm hitting. Like, I'm not going to kill somebody from behind. So
yep.
I don't know where the line is that we say, hey, enough's enough. Like, you're done for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Hockey is a contact sport. You said it best. I like the way you put it. It's going to be part of the game. It's not going anywhere, right? Hitting is
Yeah.
not going anywhere, but
And I
you
don't
have
want
to
it to
be.
go anywhere. I'm not saying take it out either.
I right. I agree with you. It needs to stay part of the game. It's a crucial part of the game. Um, but the difference is you need to start thinking about hitting as separating the guy from the puck or
Yep.
making a play that helps your team instead of I'm going to go down there and put that guy's head through the wall. That's not the right mindset. And those are the types of hits that we got to get out of the game. It's
Yep.
for everybody's betterment.
Yep. And, people that kind of disagree with us there, like, I would want to know, like, what your thoughts are. Like, it, I think we have the privilege of just watching the game as the game. But when you're down at ice level, like in kind of skating some of these higher level games, there's so much more to think about, uh, and the little stuff is like so hard to see sometimes. Like, did Darnell Nurse like kind of like give a lean forward to where Reeves tried to angle him or tried to, you know, meet him at a certain angle and he
Right.
just pulled up at the last minute. Like stuff like that happens and I get it. So like we just have the privilege to talk about it in the aspect of oh shit, Darnell Nurse is pretty much out for a long time now. So it's tough to see. It's a bad scene all around for the NHL. So and I think it goes cross leagues too. Like you see NFL players like grab each other's legs and twist them until like their legs are falling off or their legs are broken in half. So it's pretty crazy. But I wanted to highlight another team, kind of mortal enemies of the Toronto Maple Leafs is the Boston Bruins. Jenks. I don't think anybody would have thought about this at the beginning of the season. 5 game losing skid. Swayman under 900 save percentage. I mean, the guy signed what? 8 by 8? 8.6 by 8? Where's that
He's got a
money going?
healthy
He
deal.
just fell through the gutter, or what is going on?
He said, "Thanks for the money. I'm going home."
As everybody
Uh,
does.
I, it's funny. Whenever we go into this season, like I'll say the last 4 or 5 years, basically since like Bergeron retired at this point, and Chara's been gone, and the changing the guard from those guys.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, including myself, have been down on the Bruins preseason. Like, oh, this is the year they take a step back. And I think finally, people went into the season saying, they're the Bruins. They never take a step back. They're going to be fine. And, they're under 500 right now, and we're a quarter of the way through the season. I
Yeah.
think we're kind of seeing that take effect. And I'm sure Allmark leaving town has something to do with that because the time split worked out really well between him and Swayman. They lost some other guys to free agency, like Jake DeBrusk, who wasn't a big scorer, but he was a physical player. He could get the momentum shifting when you needed a big play, and he did contribute on the score sheet as well. So it's this 5 game skid. I don't think it's all that surprising at this point. If you look at the roster and say, okay, this sort of makes sense. They're not as good of a team as they were last year, and they've played some tough teams in their defense a little bit, but they've also lost to some bad teams as well. I think they
Yeah.
just got lit up by the Blue Jackets the other night. So they're in a weird spot right now. I think this is probably them finally taking a step back, like people have been predicting, and it might be the new normal until they can bring somebody else in or Swayman finds his game again. I don't think it's not that Swayman's playing horrible, but you expect him to play better based on the history with him in net, and he's played well above 900 in every season so far. So I think it's just a combination of things starting to go wrong for the Bruins, and they got to find a way to make a spark in there with a change in the roster, or just something's got to change if they want to turn this thing around.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at like some of the recent plays. Like I don't see any, Pasternak, Marchand like
Yeah.
lighting it up the score sheet and stuff like that. When you're paying those guys a lot of money, like you gotta produce. And speaking of money, like I'm hearing rumblings around the Minnesota Wild. That Kiprasov guy, that or whatever his name,
Yeah.
Kaprizov.
Kiprasov.
I'm
Mika
hearing.
Kiprasov was a goalie for Calgary
I
who
know.
retired about 15 years ago.
I knew that was wrong. I'm like, that sounded
That's not right.
French for a minute, but but I'm hearing rumors. Just a rumor mill going. He's trying to seek 13 million for his next contract, and I don't know if Billy G's got those kind of pockets, especially in this team hasn't sniffed any sort of playoff dominance in a while. And I just want to hear like some of your thoughts around just what's going on out there in the ether.
You know what? I like Kaprizov. He's obviously a good player. He was a little bit of a hidden gem that they found there and brought him in from Russia, and he's been electric to watch. He's a really fun player to watch.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be one of those weird cases where like Kaprizov has more leverage by staying in Minnesota than going to free agency. Because if you look at Minnesota, like he's the star. He is
Yeah.
the star player in Minnesota. And Minnesota's in a position where they cannot afford to lose him. Other teams he might be a nice to have. Minnesota needs him.
Yeah.
So he might have leverage. 13 million is awful lofty. I don't know if he's getting 13 million.
Yeah.
But he's going to get paid, and it's going to be over 10. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at 11, maybe even 12.
I
13's
thought
pretty
when
expensive.
Panarin signed his 11 million or 12 million dollar contract, I thought that was insane. And
Yeah.
that was a while ago too. And now most of these guys, like goalies, have come up to like 8x8s, and when
Yeah.
Bobrovsky signed his 10x10, I thought that was crazy too. But
Yeah.
it's paying dividends now. It's just, where do you see this kid in your future, and are you going to buy in to say, hey, we have to build around this guy. We have to get key people in, and they have some rookies on that team. You know that what Boldy, Bold what's his last name?
Matthew
The
Boldy.
Boldy, yeah. So I was
Yeah, you
right.
were right. You
Okay,
were right. You hesitating confused me. I was like,
yeah.
yeah, if you're talking about Matthew Boldy, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so like kids like that on that team, like maybe they have a 1-2 combo in the future
Yeah,
coming for that squad. Especially,
yeah.
they keep the young goalie Likinen, Likinen.
No,
Yeah,
keep trying.
what's his last name?
The Minnesota goalie is Gustafsson.
Yeah, Gustafsson. That's it. Who am I? I'm thinking of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. That's what I'm thinking of.
And oh
Buffalo.
man,
Buffalo's
if
on my mind.
Gustafsson heard you compare him to Lukin, he probably wouldn't
He'd
be too
probably
happy.
murder me. Yeah, that's right. He'd probably sick Putin on me or something. I'd have a missile over my head right now. God. Anyways, and rumor mill part 2 though, Jenks. Jordan Binnington. If the St. Louis Blues continue to not produce, do they say, "Hey, let's just scrap it. Get rid of the kids that led us to the cup. Let's get some picks in at the trade deadline, and who better to trade with than say, "Hey, Boston Bruins, here's a backup that you need. What's a first overall or first round pick?" You know, I just want to hear your thoughts. What
Man.
is this Jordan Binnington character done in St. Louis?
Oh man, I don't know because they've got that young kid in Hofer there too, and they seem to like him. Biddington is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
He'll have 3 games where like, oh my god, this is a top 5 goal in the NHL, and then the next 5 games will be like, he does not even look like an NHL goalie. Like how I don't know how this guy has so many ups and downs. Um, the Boston thing is interesting though,
Yeah.
because the tandem has worked out for them so well recently. Like we were just talking about Olmark and Swayman. Do they feel like that's the missing piece? Do they need to bring in another 1B goalie for Swayman? Maybe. I don't know if it makes sense to have that much cap tied up in your goalies because he's not cheap.
I mean, I think you at what point do you say like, "Hey, like maybe we messed up. Like maybe we should have like tried to negotiate with these two goalies and say, "Hey, like same thing, run it back. We'll give you a couple million in signing bonus if you have your, salary around like 5-6." Like that could work, but I I just don't see a world in the future in the NHL where tandem goalies aren't unstoppable. Like you can't have a pure one guy goalie anymore in the NHL. I think the days of Carey Price and Fleury and Brodeur are over.
Yeah,
We're seeing like the fall of like kind of Vasilevsky. He's had those 1-2 years, but he's kind of fallen off because he's so relied on to be that guy, and it's hard to do that for 7 years in a row. Like Bobrovsky, look at him. His first
yeah,
3-4 years on that contract were ass. So like, you gotta. I think tandem goalie and is the way of the future in the NHL. It's just the way of the road.
agreed. I mean, think high level of how many single nets there are in the NHL anymore. I'll call them
Yeah,
that. It's probably less than 5. The ones that come to mind are Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, uh, you know, Demko when he's healthy, but he can't seem to stay healthy.
right.
Um, maybe Jake Ottinger's in that tier now.
Igor,
Um, Igor, but even
kinda,
even
yeah,
even Johnny Quick has been really good as a backup, so they're
yeah.
giving him some playing time. Maybe Bobrovsky at this point. I don't know, but see, we even got to like 2 or 3 names, and then we're like maybe.
Yeah.
There's no like Brodeur's playing 70 games this year.
Yeah.
Patrick Waugh is playing 80 out of the 82 games this year. That doesn't happen anymore. So I totally agree with you.
And it's so hard to find those guys. Like we've talked about generational talent, and it just seems like the last 20 players that have been quote unquote generational have all been skaters. Like I don't know a single goalie that got drafted and then went straight to the NHL. Like unless it's like way back then, I'm talking like 90s probably, like Patrick Waugh or Brodeur. But Fleury started in the NHL. Carey Price played in the NHL. Like it's it's so hard to like predict how goalies are gonna react to the high pace and high intensity in the show. So yeah, I think it's cool to see like some new like definitions of style come to play. Like we witnessed the power play style where I don't know why it ever came to be a thing, but people would go all the way up to the red line and then just drop it back to the guy swinging late. Like, bro, now everybody's standing still at the blue line waiting for this one guy. It's a meat wall on the far blue line. So how's this guy gonna get through? No clue. No clue. Dump and chase. I thought that was the dumbest power play strategy of all time that took into effect. Um, so it's just something cool to see like throughout NHL history.
Yep.
But as far as NHL news goes, I think that's pretty much it from the last week. Pretty slow news day, so we're not going to try to push the issue and try to, be content grabbers and try to create things that aren't there. So we're going to talk hockey because that's something we love and something me and Jenks are both part of. And I want to get your coaching mind going here and approaching how we talk about like the game within the game. As referees, you do these line changes where the away team gets to change first, and then the home team gets to go last and kind of match up players if they want to. And then sometimes there's like face off far in the far zone. You're like, oh wait, sorry, forgot to put one extra guy out there. Oops, my bad. Just to give people a little extra break. What goes through your mind when like you're approaching different scenarios on line changes?
Oh, that's a good question. It's tough because, like you said, you have a lot more control over that on home games, right?
Yeah.
Um, from my perspective, I keep it pretty simple. The one who really plays, if anybody plays that game on our staff, it's our head coach, where he'll hold back some of the players and say, let's wait to see who's going out. Or let's buy some time here because we're going on the power play. We need to rest our legs for a second, whatever. He really controls that side of it. From my side of it, what I'm really paying attention to is I just kind of keep an eye on where the better players are on the opposing bench, and see, okay, where's the face-off? If the face-off is in the defensive end and it's let's say it's a stronger line, then maybe it makes sense to let's jump ahead here and even if it was a short shift, even if something's out of rotation,
Right.
let's get our better D out there. It's I'll say most of the time it's just rolling lines, but very situational. Like you brought up the idea of like an offensive zone face-off, and maybe we need a goal. Let's get the guys out there and maybe stall for a second and
Yeah.
see what we can do.
Shit, goalie, you're strapped down there. Fix it. Your strap. Yeah, make sure you fix your strap.
Yeah. Go down. Take your helmet off.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's we don't really play that many games. I'll say
Okay.
it's more about just paying attention to the matchups and making sure that you've got the right guys on the ice in the right situations.
Right.
You pay attention to every team in high school hockey basically has two or three guys that you really want to pay attention to, and just try to make sure that you've got the right matchup on the ice when those guys are out there. You don't want to be caught sleeping and then all of a sudden the McDavid of single A high school hockey goes down and scores on you, and you're like, oh shit, I was asleep at the wheel.
Like Jesus Christ, should have put my 12th D man out there. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, but yeah, I get that. I don't think I was ever on a team that did like sort of those mind games like matchup wise. I know like
Yeah,
as like youth hockey and high school hockey, it's hard to like really match people up because like
yeah,
I don't think anybody's really like that dominant out there usually. Like sometimes like you get one or two like every now and again, but still like it's hard to like kind of be like, hey, who are we putting out there against their guy that's unstoppable? I don't know, like maybe our first line, but then they blow by him. Like, oh, let's try our second line. Like, and then at some point you're like, all right, like let's just put a body on him. Just somebody get out there and
right.
just put a body on him, slow him
You're
down.
going you're going exactly where my mind's going, and I was just going to add to that to say it. I'm not always looking about, I don't have to say I need my best player on the ice. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
about, who's reliable. Who do I know exactly what I'm going to get from? They're gonna play it safe. Just make sure the puck gets out of the end. Very consistent in what their output is.
yeah,
So it's you've got all types of different defensemen, right? So I'm a defensive coach, so you've got defensemen who are a little bit more offensive focused and will rush the puck. You've got defensemen who are good both ways, but maybe not excellent in either defensive end or the offensive end. And then you've
yeah,
got defensemen who are stay at home, and you're like, if I need a stop, I trust this guy most. If I need a goal, I trust this guy most. It
yeah.
just depends on what the situation calls for. So just being able to figure out the tools you got and who's the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I remember like it was like the Penguin Cup game. We were playing CP, and there's like 10 or 12 seconds left, and I'm telling my offensive coach, like, Coach, if you don't put me out there, like, I'm going to freak out on this bench. Like, my anxiety to like have to be out there to control the game. Like, I'm like, Coach, I am the only one that can block this puck right now. That's it. Like, I know our team. Like, I will put my neck in front of the slap shot. Like, that's how dedicated I am to win this shit. But yeah, I totally get it. Like, who do you like? Each coach, I think their job is to know how to push their players and which players you're gonna get at what time. Like some might be good at the end of the game, some might be trash because again, like we as fans might not like see it as like high strung, but when you're like 14, 15, 16, all the way up to like 20, it's the freaking cup. Like every day, every game, like it's stressful out there. Like, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're like, oh, it's single A, double B, it's triple A, it's double A. If you're in the final game of the season, championship game, it's go time. Like the heart's pumping. Like once the puck drops, it kind of levels out. But if it's a 1-0 game or a tied game and 10 seconds left, my heart is in my throat. Like that's how much it's pounding. So it's pretty crazy and it's cool to see that like coaches actually take that into aspect too, like
Oh,
which players
100%.
are gonna get. And you know, I envy some of these coaches because like eventually I want to get into coaching, and I just want to hear your thoughts around like how do you know like a player is ready for AAA? Like I think in Western PA right now we have an epidemic of AAA, absolute epidemic. Don't get me wrong, the kids are getting better. There's a lot more better
For
kids
sure.
because of the availability of like coaching. Like there's better coaches out there that
Yep.
are coaching these
Yep.
kids up to be better. That being said, how do you know as like a coach, like okay, that guy can actually play like Pens, could play Viper Stars, or could play, just any level of AAA hockey?
I That's a good question. I think the way I see it is it's kind of two things. One, you've got to have some very clear talent. Like you
Yeah,
you've got to understand the game at a pretty high level. Um, You've got to have some physical raw ability, and you've got to be coachable. But it's also a mindset too, right? And I think that's the bigger part of it in my
Yeah.
head is, you could have all the talent in the world. You could be the best player and be dominating high school hockey, and you could have at the same time you could just be a natural talent and have no work ethic.
Yeah.
And to play at that AAA level, you have to have the mindset to say, I'm taking this seriously. I want to continue to get better. I want to play at the highest level I can, and I'm going to put in the work that's required with that. I mean, and that
Yeah.
that involves things like working out. You got to go to the gym outside of practice. You got to keep yourself in as good a physical condition as you can be. You've got to get on the ice every day with the mindset of, I'm here to learn. I'm here to make myself better. You don't go into practice and just kind of go through the motions and, I'm just doing this to get to game day and I only really care about the games. It's that whole mentality of,
Yep.
I'm taking this seriously and I want to be the best player I possibly can be. And I think that's the biggest piece of what it takes to be a AAA player. Um, and to show the coaching staff that you're serious about growing as a player and playing at a high level.
Yeah, and I think with that too is a, a lot of people like don't have the natural ability of just being godlike on the ice, and most people don't. And a lot of
Right.
people, like you said, have to work on it. And if, say, a player has that ungodly ability
Mm-hmm.
and is just the worst human, like just like always like either in the box, like from chirping or like just starting shit all the time from just can't control him on the bench, like stuff like that too is like what I look at. Like
That's a good
if
point.
you're just a decent human out there, you're so far ahead of just coaches and scouts looking at you and be like, dude, like
Mm-hmm.
if you just like put in the little extra work, like boom, you're there. And like say you do because like again, you take good criticism, you take
Yep.
constructive feedback, like all these things, and you put it to work in the off season. You come back, boom, like then you're already going. Like I hate when like kids are so good, but just the mouths on some of these kids, like just non-stop. Like what? Just play. Just like talk with the score sheet. Be like, hey, yeah, I have a good chicken recipe out. You want to cook some chicken after, and like, or smile at them. Be like, thanks. Have a good day, man. Like that drives people crazy. Like you don't always need to
Yes.
have the best chirp out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good chirp and I love laughing out there as much as possible. But at the end of the day, like sometimes it's just not worth like all the extra effort some of these kids or teams put into just talking out there on the ice. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm older now and I'm like, dude, like what are we doing?
I completely agree with everything you just said. And the way I see that too is like, I agree. I enjoy a good chirp like anybody else does. It's part of the game to be out there and be talking a
Right.
little
Yeah.
trash and try to get under somebody's skin. But as soon as that crosses the line of taking penalties and costing your team, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Go out there and compete and play hard and talk a little trash, and that's all fine. As soon as you start two-handing people because you're frustrated,
Right. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or taking unsportsmanlike penalties because you took it too far, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So you got to ride that line. You got to be very careful, but you got to show some maturity from a young age. And I know that's hard to do sometimes. And
Yeah.
everybody loses their cool. I've lost my cool in games. I'm sure you have too. It just happens in the heat of the moment, but that cannot be a regular occurrence if you want to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like when I've had this in roller hockey, like
Yeah.
like when I was younger, because like usually I was like the better one of like the local teams, and that's not a chirp. That's just like how it was. Like because there wasn't that many like AAA players like switching over in the summer to play roller hockey. They were just out there still grinding. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, they're gonna target you. Like you're gonna have a designated guy to just follow you if you're that good, and then you're just gonna get the extra whack on the hands. You're gonna get the old belly jab, or like you pass the puck. You're gonna get hit after all the time. So like
You're giving me PTSD to when we played each other in
yeah,
college.
you know it. Like I'm on you. Like
I
you're
would
the best player.
I would hop the boards and turn around, and you're holding the back of my jersey already.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my
like
god,
buddy, I'm not letting you score one on us because I'll never hear it. Like we're going to Plymouth after it, I'll never hear it.
right.
So, so like it's just like stuff like that. Like you gotta have your head on right. You gotta keep your cool.
Yeah.
Like know that you are the best and act like it. Be like, hey man, like I got a nice mac and cheese recipe. Like you can borrow it sometimes if you want. Like I swear to God, like it's fire. Like nothing. Like not only will possibly that guy laugh, he'll probably take it easy on you because he's like, dude, this guy doesn't give a shit and he's still the best. Like nothing I can do will affect him. So like, like it's all fun and games, out there. Let's just try to have more fun than play games. It is what it is, but. Yeah, those two things I think go together is with coaching and just AAA hockey in general. I think we need to kind of elevate the sense of when we need to have a AAA team versus I got 20 parents to spend $100,000. Let's create a AAA team. Because like all that's going to create is a culture of just frustration, anxiety, bad behavior, and probably a lot of hurt kids in the future. So that's my spiel on that. And I'll probably say it again in the future as more teams pop up. It's getting kind of crazy, and I've told people, I'm like, dude, there's going to become a day where we're going to see quad A hockey. And what's quad A? Quad A is just AAA. AAA right now is almost so watered down. I wouldn't say that. The kids are so good that they're all on the same playing field. Like there's not like I want to be part of the Pittsburgh Hornets. Like I want to be part of the Pens Elite. Like it's just like, well, if I get cut from there, let me just jump to another team, another team, another team. So, but yeah, I think anybody that's there for a reason is good in my mind. But moving on to the writing on the wall picks for this podcast, we are doing Saturday, as always, the November 23rd. Full slate of games. Jenkins is 4-2, won his last two games, so kind of on a heater. What's the when beer pong, if you hit two, heating up? He's heating up.
I'm heating up.
So Jenks, give the people what they want. What is your writing on the wall pick?
So I'm looking at the schedule right now. It almost looks like every team plays. I'm not going to count these, but there are a lot of games to choose from.
Games,
so
yeah.
it doesn't make this easy. I had a pick that I was thinking about, and I don't want to pick him anymore because we talked about this. Ovechkin's out. Mm-hmm. I was going to take Washington at home over New Jersey because Washington's having a really good year, which is surprising. But what I'm going to do here is probably take another surprise. I was flipping through social media earlier today.
Whoa.
Taking a look at the hockey news, and your favorite player in the entire world is
Lars Eller.
All right, you've ruined this whole segment.
My favorite player in the whole entire world.
I will give you a hint. He's
JT,
your first round fantasy.
Big Daddy Miller.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to ruin this whole thing. Big Daddy JT Miller it has been granted a leave of absence from the Vancouver Canucks.
Let's take care of what you need to take care of.
I don't know what's going on there. I certainly hope that everything's okay in his in his personal world and that we see him back soon. But that's a big loss for Vancouver and a team that is, struggling a little bit this season, particularly without their starting goaltender in Demko,
Yeah.
and he's still not back yet either. On the other hand, the Ottawa Senators have been a little up and down this year. Allmark has been very streaky. Ottawa is scoring a lot of goals, and I just don't know how to make heads or tails out of this team right now. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I think I'm probably going to watch this for my own sake, just because I want to see how it goes. I happen to have a couple of fantasy players in this game, so it would
Just
be good
so
to
happened.
catch up on them. But you know what? Just the uncertainty in Vancouver right now. I think JT Miller not being there is going to hurt them. I'm sure hoping that Tim Stützle and Drake Batherson and Thomas Chabot all have hat tricks, and this is a 9-0 game. So I am taking the Ottawa Senators at home over the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday.
Wow. Okay. I like that pick. I think for me, it's just battle of the basements out here. It's teams that I think need to do better. I was gonna pick the Sharks because they did call up that goalie that does push-ups with the net after wins.
Yep.
I think that's super cool and super cocky, and I freaking love it. Any goalie selly outside of like the hugging that Swayman and Olmark do, I love. Because be original. Don't copy sellies. Just be original. But I have to do it, and it looks like the easy pick. But this team has struggled so often, and they're near and dear to my heart. The Utah Hockey Club is coming to town. They're coming to the Pittsburgh, PA, to play your Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, the Pens, I don't even need to talk about them. We have, this Bolivier guy that's leading goals. He's leading us in goals. What are we doing? I don't know. It's tough to see what's happened to our Penguins, especially with Tristan Jarry just absolutely leaving town after signing his $6 million contract. And then Nedeljkovic, he's right down the middle like us, just straight down the line. He doesn't really do anything bad. He doesn't really do anything good. So I'm taking the Pittsburgh Penguins over the Utah Hockey Club. I think we're going to... Sidney Crosby's like, hey, boys, come on, let's go. He's probably in the club right now switching out all the pasta. There's no more flour pasta. There's only chickpea and broccoli pasta. Nothing crazy. PB&Js, maybe some chicken. Pittsburgh Penguins over Utah. You could book that responsibly. I got to get good mojo going. I'm 3-3 on the season, so I got to get something turned around.
I'm here for that pick. Boy, I hope you're right, because the Pittsburgh Penguins are awfully depressing to watch right now, and we could use a big win right now.
It's some of the worst hockey I've seen. I think what's worse than watching the Pens now is back when Mike Johnston was the coach. It was like
for
we
like
dump
30
and
minutes.
chase, and nobody would chase. It was like, what are we doing? Oh, dump and trap. Yeah, just dump it and then just play the trap.
Yep.
Like, buddy, we have Sidney freaking Crosby.
Yep.
Go. Like, let him loose. And if we know anything about the Penguins and coaching changes, if they fire a coach mid-season, we win the cup. So honestly, I think we should do that every year, because why not? Do it until it's broken. I wouldn't be surprised if Crosby says, hey, this is my superstition. We just got to rotate these coaches in and out. It doesn't matter. Just give me the freaking puck. That's what he should say. But the way Malkin's been playing too, like, he's been lighting it up. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. People will get paid to make these decisions, not me. That's why I'm sitting behind a desk talking about it.
That's right. We should get paid to do it, though.
It's just one man's opinion. That's all.
Yep.
Anything you want to say to the good people out there, Jinx?
I don't have anything for today. It's been an awful quiet week, like you said off the top. Um, always fun to talk some hockey topics that are a little bit more, I'll say, in depth than what we normally talk about when we're talking about
Yeah.
the NHL news. So always enjoy those conversations, and hope the good people do as well.
Maybe next time we'll break down, like, maybe give the people a show of the 1-2-2 trap. And maybe explain a little bit. Give a little detailed instruction of how to execute a trap effectively.
Yeah, we'll start doing board time here on the podcast.
A 1-1-3. Get creative with it. A 2-1-2. Get it all out there. A diamond, a rhombus, overload, umbrella. Come on. Anyways, make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and at Black Aces Hockey. And that's going to be it for us, guys. My name is Blaine Adams. I'm right here, as always, with your co-host, Nick Jenkins. And I'm out of here.